Okay, so we're going to touch on a couple of different things. Please try and bear with me. We're going to have a good time, I promise, okay? I ended up in fucking German Disney World. Let me just start off by saying, point blank, there should be no queue on this planet, fuck that, in this entire universe where matchmaking is going to take 45 plus fucking minutes. Unless you're playing a game that's maybe 10 years old or something, where the player base all but died and the only motherfuckers that are still playing the game are the developers and their family. There is a huge discrepancy when it comes to people that are actually looking for help opposed to people that are providing that help, okay? You're either there to get guided, which means either you are joining that shit by yourself or with another unfortunate soul, or you're there to guide. More specifically, a part of a clan. The matchmaking time is going to be significantly less. The queue time, or the average waiting time, showed to be about a minute for those people, opposed to 45 minutes plus for people like myself. The seekers, okay, the ones that are seeking guidance. I laugh because this is all fucking ridiculous. I'll explain more specifically why I think that is a little bit later in the video. I'll explain how these companies are after your time, why they're after your time, and how valuable your time is to these companies, okay? I'll break it down the best I can. Today I woke up, I was happy because I actually had time to spend playing video games. And I said to myself, well, you know what? Today's as good a time as any to bang out the raid. I seen this bullshit, 45 minutes plus. I said, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to do it. I was committed. Also, I wanted to get it over with, too, because everyone else and their mother has done the raid but me. So, I jump in that shit. I'm waiting. Now, obviously, I'm not going to look at the fucking screen for 45 plus minutes. Again, about an hour and 20 minutes the first time. So while I'm being match made, I'm doing other things. I'm looking at the phone. I'm, looking at Twitter and things like that. The next thing you know, I look up at the screen and I see a message. The shit timed out. Unfortunately, when I was looking at the phone, the alert came. Okay, I was supposed to press the button to join the clan, but I missed it. Okay, that's on me. That's totally on me. But please consider, it's tough to look at the screen for an hour straight just sitting there. Not just that, you feel like you're wasting time that you could be applying to do other things. And I tried to apply that time, checking my email and things like that. This way I didn't feel like I was just sitting there wasting time. I was glancing back and forth onto my phone, going back and forth into the PlayStation Network sending messages, but I was never gone for, say, longer than a minute. And the bigger kick in the balls is that I actually saw the accept the invitation to this clan screen. Okay, I saw that for like a half a second until it ultimately flipped to the message about me missing the bus, okay? So here we go. We join into another queue. Another hour goes by. And finally, thank the heavens, thank the gods, thank Christ in heaven, I can finally play the fucking game. No more staring at that fucking screen. But then this happens.
Guardian down.
Kannst du mich wiederbeleben? Ripe. Nice. Yeah.
Can somebody English for like 5 minutes, please?
You stand on the platforms and shoot the arrows. Long story short, we end up losing a guy. I wonder why. So we go back into orbit. Remember, I'm committed. I'm in this bitch for the long run. Okay? I'm going to give it my all. As you could see in here, there was a little bit of a language barrier, but I was willing to work with what I had. Okay, I was willing to try to give it a shot. And then this happens.
Guardian down.
No way.
These kids felt like glitching the map at the expense of my ticket. What's that, you ask? What is this ticket that I'm speaking of? You thought sitting in a queue for 45 fucking plus minutes was going to be free of charge? Of course not. You're given an allowance of 9 tickets, I believe, per week, okay? Now, these clans, however, do not have to pay anything. In fact, they don't even need raid experience, which in my mind is absolutely crazy and makes all of this asinine, because when you think about it, they're the ones that are supposed to be guiding new players. Yes, the ones that only have to wait 1 minute, okay, don't have to pay anything to use this matchmaking service, do not have to have raid experience as a requirement. So, if that's the fucking case, why does any of this exist? Just allow me, for that matter, to matchmake with other motherfuckers like myself. Allow me to matchmake with other solo players. I'll take my fucking chances. I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out, Bungie. I don't blame these kids. It's not their fault, okay? They're kids just being kids. I blame the fucking system that's in place for no other reason than to take every last fucking minute out of my time that they can possibly get. The reality is, I'm not playing as much Destiny 2 as I did around this time when Destiny 1 came out, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that's having this experience. I think they recognize this, I think they understand this, so they're getting our time in other clever, but in my personal opinion, gross ways, okay? People are familiar with paywalls. Well, these are time walls. They're putting time gates in front of activities and events. And when it comes to this particular activity, the motherfucking raid, I think we all can agree on it's something we should all at least try doing once, because it's a piece of content that many would agree is worth doing. They don't want us to shoot our load all at once, but unfortunately many of us have, okay? They understand many of us would. Therefore, they go with this kind of approach where they're going to drip feed us content. Okay, they're going to implement content through updates and things like that to get us coming back, to get more time out of us. The Iron Banner being a good example of that, okay? It's all about time management for them. Managing our time. The reality is, many of the features that we enjoyed, okay, many of the features that worked in the last Destiny should be in this game at launch. I could sort of kind of get it if it was a game that didn't have much money or manpower behind it. But we're talking about the biggest game on this planet, okay, with one of the biggest budgets ever known to man. Some of these companies unfortunately have absolutely no respect when it comes to our time. You do have some companies, most of them are indie developers, that do in fact respect our time and try to cut out as much bullshit as possible so we can spend the majority of our time actually playing, opposed to these companies seeing our time as a valuable resource. Let me explain to you why it's so valuable to them, because this might sound very alien to you. This might sound very weird. Why do these companies care so much about our time? Please allow me to start off with a quick example. Let's pretend that I ran a TV show. I owned a TV show. People loved this TV show. More importantly, they watched it from the minute it started, and they watched it to the minute the credits came rolling up. And not just with one episode, but week after week, month after month, this was a consistent thing. I could essentially ask anything I wanted when it comes to advertisement. I could charge any fucking price. These companies, when they go into these boardroom meetings with their investors, shareholders, and the likes, you can go in there armed with tons of valuable data when it comes to bullet points and arguments as to why people should invest or care about your thing. The most critical, the most valuable information you can bring to the table, one that actually speaks for itself, is how much time people are spending with your thing. That's why a lot of times you see these companies making extraordinary efforts to show the world how much time people are spending playing their games, how many people are online at once. Information, when you usually see it, are more than likely saying to yourself, hey, nobody gives a fuck about this shit, why are you showing me? Well, you don't care about this shit, I don't care about this shit, most of the consumers and the gamers don't care about this shit, but anybody that's posed to make a buck on this stuff does in fact care. They care a lot, actually. The only reason why actually I chose to include that video footage was not to belittle these kids. These kids actually seem like good kids, okay? That was not the intent. The intent here is to show you how ridiculous this guided game system is, how it shouldn't exist, and why it only exists, in my personal opinion, for the sake of milking our fucking time in any single way possible. Okay, I should have spent the majority of my time playing the game, which of course I could have if I had 5 other friends to play with, if I had gone out there and found a clan and coordinated group effort when it comes to taking on the raid. But the idea here, okay, stay with me now, is that this exists for people that don't have that kind of time. Okay, this exists, or I should say, supposed to exist as a solution, but instead they're using it as a time gate. Okay, I'm not sure how much more supporting data I need to provide. 9 tickets per week. Okay, you get 9 tickets per week if you're the person seeking. Okay, this is supposed to be a solution for the people that don't have the time, for the people that do need help in this area. Okay, that was one of the biggest turnoffs when it comes to the original Destiny, when it comes to the Nightfall, when it comes to the raid, which I think, again, we can all agree is content that's worth playing. That was one of the major complaints by people that are strapped for time, that don't have a ton of people to play with, that don't have the time to go out and scout for clans and things like that. This was supposed to be the answer. They understood this. When I say they, I'm talking about Bungie, because that's how they marketed this. But when you look at the design, when you look at how it's actually fucking designed, if you take a fucking step back and take your fucking blinders off just for a second, just long enough to see things fucking clearly, you'll get it. You'll understand completely what this is and what this isn't. Let's think about this logically here. This is supposed to be a service to help people like myself. People that don't necessarily have a ton of time to throw at this game. Okay, a ton of people to play with, don't have the time to go out and look for clans and things like that. Yet, we're the ones that have to spend 45 fucking plus minutes. We're the ones that have to spend more time sitting in this matchmaking, while also limiting how many times we can actually enter. Why it's a total of 9 tickets, 9 entries, I have no idea, but let's just go with it. Let's say there's a reasonable explanation why we can only enter it 9 times, okay? More than likely, it all comes down to abuse, some sort of exploit or abuse of the system. That's usually why we're limited when it comes to mechanics, okay? But let's just go with it. And then you have the other side. The clans, the people that do have more time to throw at this game, more people in general to play with, they only have to wait a fucking minute. And, more importantly, they don't have to pay anything. They don't have to spend a fucking ticket. They just join. And then their matchmaking takes about a minute or so. And these guys or girls that you're being matchmade with, they might not have any raid experience at all. So how the fuck is that any better than just, say, eliminating all tickets and letting anybody matchmake with anybody? Just get 6 people together. You're telling me that could have been a worse situation than this? When I say this, I'm talking about my experience today. A total of 3 hours sitting in that motherfucking queue. The last time I spent about 50 minutes and I was like, you know what? Fuck this, I'm out of here. I was talking with my buddy Squid about how ridiculous this shit was, and I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm all set. Maybe I'll try again tomorrow. The reality, the bottom line, is that if you don't start waking the fuck up, seeing things for what they are, understanding that these companies will leverage every fucking thing they possibly can in order to make more money even at the expense of our time and our gameplay, well, this is only going to get worse. I talked about how the microtransactions would get worse. In 2015, I told you that they would eventually start introducing consumables, and it's not because I'm some sort of a fucking oracle. History has a tendency to repeat itself. Okay, and usually when you take a look at what companies are doing, other companies, and you actually give a fuck about your money, okay, because nobody's buying my motherfucking games. I gotta buy them with my hard-earned money. I understand this is a T-rated game. By the way, that's a really hard thing to accomplish when you have guns in your game. You actually have to jump through very specific hoops. Without going on and on about it, the bottom line here is you got a lot of kids playing this game, kids that quite frankly don't give a fuck about money or anything that's coming out of my mouth right now. It's boring. They don't care. And I get that because I was a kid. I get that when you're that young, you don't really value money as much because you're not actually out there earning it for the most part. I get that. Completely understand it. That's why you have this weird thing where you have two completely extreme perspectives on everything. From gameplay to everything, you name it. So understand, while some of you might not understand what I'm saying, or it sounds incredibly far-fetched, boring, yada yada, one day it might make sense to you. So just please don't outright dismiss me because it doesn't make sense to you now. More than likely one day, sooner or later, it might. I think it's absolutely fucking disgusting, and that these companies should be held accountable because it's absolutely despicable. And I'm not even sure how it's fucking illegal. How these companies go out there and spend so much fucking money investing, researching, trying to find that sweet spot when it comes to addiction, gambling, and things like that. Trying to incorporate gambling like mechanics or elements where it's going to trigger off the same endorphins when it comes to drugs. It's just absolutely mind-blowing.